Chapter 9: Laws, Policies, and Programs for Philippine Women. Good day, future educators. Today, we will focus on Chapter 9: Laws, Policies, and Programs for Philippine Women. Our task is to understand the legal and policy frameworks that protect and promote women's rights in the Philippines, while also linking them to international commitments. These frameworks are not just legal instruments. They shape institutions, guide education, and influence how society envisions equality. As future teachers, your challenge is to bring these principles into practice, ensuring that the rights secured by law translate into real experiences of respect and fairness in classrooms and communities. The foundational pillars: international and constitutional commitments. The Philippine journey toward gender equality is rooted in both national and international foundations. At the national level, the 1987 Philippine Constitution provides the strongest anchor. Article 2, Section 14, declares, "The state recognizes the role of women in nation building and shall ensure the fundamental equality before the law of women and men." This constitutional principle elevates gender equality from a political ideal to a legal mandate. It acknowledges women as full partners in development and provides the basis for passing gender-responsive laws. On the international stage, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, ratified by the Philippines in 1981, is often described as the International Bill of Rights for Women. It obligates signatory states to eliminate inequality in education, employment, health, politics, and family life. Ratifying CEDAW committed the Philippines to harmonize its laws with global human rights standards and inspired the passage of landmark legislation, such as the Magna Carta of Women. CEDAW's significance lies in setting universal benchmarks while fostering global solidarity, ensuring that women's rights are consistently defended across borders. Landmark Philippine legislation: from recognition to integration. Building on these commitments, the Philippines has enacted progressive laws to integrate women into national development and protect them from discrimination and violence. One of the earliest milestones was Republic Act 7192, or the Women in Development and Nation Building Act of 1992. This law marked a shift from merely recognizing women's roles to actively integrating them into the development agenda. Its most significant feature was the Gender and Development (GD) budget, requiring government agencies to allocate at least 5% of their budgets for GAD-related programs, a policy that institutionalized gender mainstreaming as a financial obligation, not just a policy statement. RA 7192 also guaranteed equal legal capacity to act, affirming that women of legal age, regardless of civil status, could enter contracts and access credit, loans, and scholarships on equal footing with men. It further opened the doors of military and police academies to women, breaking barriers in male-dominated professions. To ensure effective implementation, agencies such as the National Economic and Development Authority, NEDA, and the Philippine Commission on Women, PCW, were tasked to integrate women's concerns into national and regional development plans. The impact of RA 7192 lies in its institutionalization of gender awareness through financial mechanisms, ensuring that equality became a funded priority within government. The Magna Carta of Women: Comprehensive Rights and Protections. While RA 7192 paved the way, the most comprehensive women's rights legislation in the Philippines is Republic Act 9710, or the Magna Carta of Women, 2009. Considered the local equivalent of CEDAW, it declares unequivocally that women's rights are human rights and condemns all forms of discrimination. The law provides specific protections for marginalized women, including those in rural, indigenous, and urban poor communities. It ensures their access to education, healthcare, resources, and livelihood opportunities, acknowledging the multiple layers of discrimination they face. It also mandates non-discrimination in employment and education, prohibiting practices such as unequal pay, dismissal due to pregnancy, or the expulsion of students on the basis of out-of-wedlock pregnancy. Furthermore, the Magna Carta strengthened the GAD budget framework, requiring all government agencies to adopt gender mainstreaming as a strategy. It designated the PCW as the primary monitoring body, ensuring accountability across the bureaucracy. Importantly, the law also introduced specific protections, such as women's right to access justice, protection from violence, and comprehensive health services, including reproductive health. It even guarantees 2 months of paid leave for women who undergo surgery due to gynecological disorders. By embedding women's rights into every facet of governance, the Magna Carta of Women remains the cornerstone of gender equality in the Philippines. Protecting against violence, Republic Act 9262. Completing this framework is Republic Act 9262, or the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2004, VAWC. This law recognized that violence against women is not a private matter, but a public crime requiring state intervention. It defines and penalizes 4 major forms of violence. 1. Physical violence, acts that inflict bodily harm. 2. Sexual violence, including rape, harassment, and coerced sexual activity. 3. Psychological violence, such as stalking, verbal abuse, humiliation, or controlling behaviors. 4. Economic abuse, including financial control, denial of support, or preventing a woman from working. RA 9262 also provides for protection orders at the barangay and judicial levels to immediately safeguard victims. Significantly, it recognizes battered woman syndrome, BWS, as a legal defense, one of the few laws worldwide to do so. It further requires the establishment of women and children protection desks in police stations and special family courts to handle VAWC cases with sensitivity and urgency. This law filled a critical gap by addressing intimate partner violence and recognizing its deep impact on women and children, ensuring both immediate protection and long-term justice. Supreme Court case. The Supreme Court has issued several landmark decisions interpreting Republic Act 9262, strengthening its application and clarifying its scope. One of the most cited cases is Garcia v. Dryland, GR number 179267, June 25, 2013, where the court upheld the constitutionality of the law against claims that it violated equal protection and due process. The petitioner argued that RA 9262 was unfairly biased in favor of women, but the court ruled that the classification was valid because women and children are historically the most vulnerable to domestic violence. It also clarified that protection orders issued ex parte are constitutional since they safeguard victims in imminent danger, and that barangay protection orders are validly issued by barangay officials as part of their administrative duties. This ruling confirmed RA 9262 as a legitimate and necessary protective law. Another important decision is Randy Michael Knutson v. Sarmiento Flores, GR number 239215, July 12, 2022, where the Supreme Court clarified that mothers can also be held liable under RA 9262 for abusing their children. In this case, a father filed a petition for a protection order on behalf of his minor daughter, alleging abuse by the mother. The lower courts initially dismissed the petition, believing that RA 9262 only applied against men. The Supreme Court corrected this interpretation, ruling that the law's wording, "any person," means women can also be offenders, and fathers may represent their children in filing for protection orders. This case expanded the law's reach, showing that protection is not limited by the gender of the abuser, but rather focuses on the safety and welfare of victims. The court also tackled economic abuse in People v. Melgar, GR number 223477, February 14, 2018. Here, the accused was convicted under RA 9262 for deliberately failing to provide financial support to his partner and child despite having the means, causing them emotional suffering and humiliation. The Supreme Court affirmed the conviction, stressing that economic abuse is a recognized and punishable form of violence under the law. This decision highlighted that violence is not only physical, but can also take psychological and financial forms that harm the dignity and well-being of women and children. Together, these cases illustrate how jurisprudence strengthens RA 9262 by validating its constitutionality, clarifying its coverage, and enforcing its broad definition of abuse. They demonstrate the judiciary's role in ensuring that the law is liberally interpreted in favor of victims, making it a powerful tool in protecting women and children from violence in its many forms. The role of education and global best practices. Laws provide the framework, but education ensures they come alive. This is where CHED Memorandum Order No. 1, Series of 2015, becomes vital. It mandates higher education institutions to integrate gender and development into curriculum, research, student services, and extension work. It also requires the creation of GED offices and encourages gender-sensitive research. By embedding gender consciousness into higher education, this order prepares future professionals, especially teachers, to model inclusivity, respect, and fairness. A gender-sensitive classroom is one of the most powerful tools for societal change. Globally, the Beijing Platform for Action, 1995, identified 12 critical areas of concern, including poverty, health, education, political participation, and violence. It served as a roadmap for countries like the Philippines in designing policies that address interconnected women's issues. Looking abroad, Sweden's generous parental leave policies, Iceland's mandatory equal pay certification, and Spain's comprehensive approach to gender-based violence demonstrate how different societies innovate toward equality. The Philippines, while advanced in many areas, can learn from these practices, especially in expanding paternity leave, strengthening workplace equality, and improving survivor support. Conclusion: the educator's responsibility. The Philippines has built a strong legal foundation for women's rights, from the constitutional mandate of equality to international commitments like CEDAW, and from integrative laws such as RA 7192 and RA 9710 to protective legislation like RA 9262. Together, these measures create a layered and evolving framework of empowerment and protection. Yet, laws alone cannot transform society. Their true power depends on how people live them out. This is where educators come in. As future teachers, you are tasked not only with understanding these frameworks, but with modeling and instilling them in your students. By promoting inclusivity, confronting bias, and fostering respect, you become key agents in turning legal ideals into lived realities. The journey toward gender equality is ongoing. With robust laws, global solidarity, and the dedication of educators like you, we can continue building a more just and equitable Philippines for all.